So, Tom Cotton, Senator from Arkansas, member of the Armed Services Committee. Senator, welcome back to our program today, and good morning. Good morning to you. Here's Secretary of State Antony Blinken to tee it up here from NBC Meet the Press on Sunday.
Until the tanks are rolling and the planes are in the air, that we're going to try everything we possibly can to get President Putin to reverse the decision we believe he's made and to dissuade him. Part of that is the prospect of massive sanctions.
We know by now there are no sanctions from this administration until and if there is an invasion. Yet when we woke up this morning, there's talk of a meeting with Putin. Is that something that would be wise right now with the American president, Joe Biden?
Well, Bill, I don't think a meeting or a phone call between Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin is going to change Vladimir Putin's calculus. What I've said for months now is that we should put sanctions on the table and impose them in advance for Russia's aggression against Ukraine and what else it does to undermine American interest. Secretary Blinken said we wouldn't act until tanks are rolling. Well, tanks are rolling and armored personnel carriers are rolling. As you said, there's satellite imagery showing them moving into attack formation just miles away from Ukraine's border. There's all kinds of video and social media showing large columns of armored vehicles in towns just a few miles away from Ukraine's border. That's not a military exercise. That's preparing for an attack. I think we should listen to what the president of Ukraine said over the weekend at a major speech in Munich in front of Vice President Harris. He urged the West to impose these sanctions now or to at least put on the table what the sanctions would be. As he said, if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are 100% convinced that Vladimir Putin has made up his mind to attack Ukraine, what are we waiting on? We need to tell Vladimir Putin exactly what we're going to do if we want to have any effect on his calculus whatsoever. I think it's too late once Russia has invaded Ukraine to try to change that calculus.
Ukraine has made it clear that they would like to be allowed to petition to join NATO. Would you support Ukraine joining NATO?
Dana, Ukraine is not ready to join NATO today. There are Russian troops on Ukrainian soil. If Ukraine were to join NATO, that would mean right away that Russia and NATO are in open conflict. However, this is not about Ukrainian membership in NATO. President Bush stated it as an aspiration 14 years ago. There is no plan for Ukraine to join NATO. It's not something that's coming up. That is all a pretext for Vladimir Putin to do what he has wanted to do since he took power more than 20 years ago, which is reassemble the greater Russian empire. He simply believes that now conditions are ripe for him to do so. Unfortunately, a lot of that has to do with a long train of concessions and weakness demonstrated by Joe Biden towards Russia over the last year, and then, of course, the humiliating debacle of our withdrawal from Afghanistan in August. Those are reasons why I think Vladimir Putin thinks now is the time to do what he's wanted to do for 20 years, which is go for the jugular in Ukraine.
If he does do that, there will be enormous casualties. Here's Lloyd Austin in Eastern Europe from over the weekend on that.
It will certainly create enormous casualties within the civilian population. And so this could create a tragedy, quite frankly, in terms of refugee flow and displaced people. So this is potentially very, very dangerous.
It's clear on behalf of this administration that every day they dribble out new information, trying to keep ahead of Vladimir Putin and his Russian intent here. Do you agree with that strategy so far, and has it worked?
Well, it doesn't appear to have worked at all, Bill, because you have Russia continuing to build up troops on Ukraine's border. We're up to now almost 200,000 Russian troops on Ukraine's border, on the north, on the east, on the south, even on the western border. That's almost half of Russia's military power. And as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have said, they believe that he has made the decision to invade. So whether you think it was a good strategy or a bad strategy, it clearly hasn't worked. I think the only thing that could have worked in the last 30 or 60 days would be to explain very clearly and concretely the kind of severe sanctions Vladimir Putin would face if he invaded Ukraine. Of course, what would have made a real difference is to not give a train of one-sided concessions over the last year to Russia, thereby signaling that we didn't have the resolve to protect our interests in Eastern Europe.
Very interesting, and all these developments happening one after another. We thank you for coming on the show this morning to kick us off. Thank you.